Chapter 14, Reports. Sar was anxiously waiting to receive the reports from the cosmos, for he had big plans to beautify it. He could see the 3 groups of Meleks preparing their reports and saw the herd of Abirs arriving from the cosmos. This delighted Sar, for it was important to his plan that the Abirs give their presentation first so Abaddon could be sent out. "I believe this throne suits me well. Do you agree?" He had directed the question to the approaching Abirs. "It is quite spectacular, sir," Jealousy responded to Sar. "Bashan, I do not remember you approaching me or being one of the leaders I appointed," declared Sar. Bashan was well known throughout the cosmos for his uncanny ability to find new treasures. Sar had always thought highly of Bashan, and Bashan knew it. "Could you think of anyone more qualified to explore the cosmos, sir?" posed Bashan. Sar gave a small nod in agreement. "Then tell me, what is the report from my cosmos?" Jealousy stepped forward to answer. "Sir, the entire cosmos has been altered. Afar remains the center, but the other stones are no longer arranged around and below it. The stones are now arranged side by side with Rebet's closest to Salem." He paused, not wanting to tell Sar what had become of Rahab. "Is this report correct, Bashan?" Sar asked to confirm Jealousy's account. "He is correct, sir, but there is more," stated Bashan. Sar glared at Jealousy. "Do not keep me waiting." Jealousy took a deep breath before continuing his report. "The outer edge is expanding at an excessive rate. Alinthial is now so far that—" "What does Alinthial have to do with anything?" bellowed Sar. His frustration was evident, which caused Jealousy to lose his train of thought. He was fumbling for words when Bashan took over the conversation. "If I may, sir," Bashan began, stepping in front of Jealousy, "due to the fact that the outer edge is expanding at such an exceptional rate, Alinthial is incapable of providing sufficient light. But your words appear to have provided a solution." Sar had calmed and was pleased to hear where this was going. "Go on. I never grow tired of learning what my power has accomplished." Bashan shot Jealousy a condescending look before continuing. He now had the upper hand as well as Sar's favor. "It appears your headquarters is radiating an intense fire that is supplying light to your stones. Rahab is inhabitable but is compensating for Alinthial's deficiency," Bashan suggested. Sar showed great satisfaction with the manner in which Bashan presented his report. "Bashan sees me for who I am, his king. His words prove his loyalty to me, and his disdain for Alinthial, the enemy's territory. He shall be one of my strongmen," Sar thought. "I am delighted to hear of Rahab's new purpose in my cosmos. With Alinthial retreating, that would account for the improvement in my vision," he thought. "Continue," he prompted Bashan, who turned the remaining report of the stones over to Jealousy. Jealousy stepped forward to speak. "There's another aspect of Rahab you should be aware of. The fire that the stone radiates is unbearably hot, and it becomes impossible to escape its pull if one gets too close. We lost an Abir to the flames." "Since when does fire have authority over an angelic?" posed Sar. "I know it sounds foolish, but we lost a very strong Abir. An infirmity was badly hurt by the fire and is currently recovering," Jealousy reluctantly reported. Sar motioned to one of his Meleks standing nearby, who rushed to his side. "Go find infirmity. I must see his injuries for myself." The Melek hurried away from Sar's throne. Sar redirected his attention back to Jealousy. "What about my other stones?" "Where do I start?" Jealousy thought. Zohar appears to be the only stone that has not changed. Adam is missing Nagad's communications center, and was all Jealousy managed to get out before Sar interrupted him. "What do you mean, missing?" "I mean the dome building is gone." Bashan stepped in again. "Sir, it has been moved into the western section of Alinthial. While I did not see it, several of the herd peered through the locked gate and identified the communication headquarters dome." Sar stood and slowly paced as he talked through this one. "Nagad refused to join our alliance. He should be with the others beneath afar, actually under my feet. So Jerahab must have moved it there, but why?" Sar was now speaking in a whisper as he tried to put it all together. "I do not know if it is possible, but the portal might have drawn it away from Adam, and it could have been intercepted and taken into Alinthial," Bashan proposed as he stepped behind Jealousy. Jealousy was happy that Bashan had jumped in. We found no other significant changes on a dam to report. Rebet's was our last stone. The oddest thing we found there, the stone itself has become frigid. The crops are no longer edible and have become stiff with the cold. Jealousy ended and hoped that he had not forgotten anything of importance. Is that all? Yes, sir. So, 2 stones, Zohar and Afar, have not changed. 1 stone is missing parts, and 2 are completely different. Does that sum up your report of the stones of fire? Sar asked. If so, Bashan, step forward and tell me about the outer edge. Jealousy nodded and stepped back while Bashan moved forward. Your cosmos is doing well, Bashan started. Sar again was encouraged by Bashan's choice of words. He continued, I do not want to bore you with the facts that have already been shared, so I will simply describe our findings in the outer edge. The dark blanket that marks the outer edge's movement is no longer reflective. There are walls surrounding Alinthial limiting our access to Alinthial. However, the 4 main entrances are still there. Bashan decided to not reiterate that there were locked gates at each of the entrances. There were 3 points of interest you need to know about. The western portion of the outer edge houses a large black portal, which is what has caused the stones to reposition. Sar interrupted. And how do you know I did not order them to move? Sir, you may have done so by ordering the portal to activate, in which case you can explain the strange gray mist seeping out of it. However, I offered 2 abirs into its draw in order to calculate its strength and reach. You offered, meaning they are gone? Sar became more fascinated with Bashan's report. Yes, I am short a total of 3 abirs. I needed the 3rd one in the realm of the regions to confirm the presence of the beast in the northern region. Sar's continuous interruptions were causing him to jump around in his report. He decided to just follow Sar's lead and see how it would end. I did not order you to the realm of the regions. Why would you go there? Because the altar is there. I assume that in your position you would want access to it. Bashan was somewhat mystified as to why Sar had not thought of this on his own. Sar stared at Bashan. He does understand what is going on. He will be vital to me in my coming era. Bashan, I am impressed. You are correct. I do have a plan for the altar and that wretched beast that guards it. Actually, you have saved me much effort by adding this stop to your mission. Tell me, is there anything else I should know about the realm of the regions? I found it interesting that the material so often said to rest over the southern portion of the outer edge was piled up beside the doors. But a key point to note is that the doors remained open. I see this as a true vantage point for us, for it is a weakness in Alinthial. Bashan was eager to wrap up his report and only had 1 more point to cover. Sar looked like he was going to speak when Bashan courageously stated, Sir, I have another interesting find that I cannot account for. However, you might be well aware of its purpose. Sar's eyebrows narrowed as he paid close attention to Bashan's next words. We ran into a massive door of some kind. It is directly in line with Afar and exhibits no volume or mass other than its entrance. It faces Afar. I personally traveled behind it and found it to be cool and damp to the touch. I was not sure whether to call it a treasure or not. Sir, does this type of object sound familiar to you? There was silence everywhere. Sar sat back on his throne and called Abaddon to his side. When Abaddon reached the top of the step of Sar's throne, he leaned down to the point where Sar had beckoned him. Sar then quietly whispered a set of instructions for Abaddon to carry out. Abaddon stood erect. It will be my honor. The cosmos will exalt your name. Abaddon stepped away to address the Isham. Bashan, approach my throne and kneel. You will be my lead Abir. Your actions on this last assignment prove that you are worthy of this title. You will serve alongside jealousy and infirmity. Jealousy breathed in as pride filled him. He was relieved that they had made the cut. Bashan stood and was directed to the right side of Sar's throne. Sar was now ready to make his declaration. Nekhamabed met Negad outside the Alinthial hall. Come with me, I have a surprise, Nekhamabed said. He led him to the western section of Alinthial where the communications center had been placed. Is that Adam's communication headquarters? Negad asked in astonishment. Yes, do you think you can still run it from here? In Negad's excitement, he practically ran to the center's door. The door opened and the 2 went in. Nekemabed took only a few steps inside as Neged walked directly over to the center console and began pressing buttons. The dome was switched on, which produced an energy force field around its exterior. Multiple screens lit up and a sundry of switches and buttons flashed on. A low vroom could be heard within the room. Nekemabed was pleased with Neged's eagerness to begin work. He walked over and touched Neged's shoulder. "It will be difficult here. On a dam, all treasures were reported to you and logged. You only dealt with glories. But in this age to come, you will be dealing with sorrows as well as joys. This center will now be trafficking in reports of every kind. There are brigades assigned to work with you on the tasks at hand. Meleks will be reporting cosmic events and needs to you regularly. You will also be receiving direct orders from the Great Temple on a regular basis. You will need to select 3 squadrons of Meleks to work exclusively with messages from the Great Temple. You will then need another 3 squadrons to carry messages to and from the front lines of the battlefield. These squadrons will be working closely with the Elenthial host. The host's success will hinge on your men's ability to move quickly and report accurately back to you," Nekemabed informed him as he guided him over to a new area within the dome. "This section will not open until Or decides it is necessary. For now, stay clear of this area." Neged was not fully confident that he was ready to take over. He paced back and forth between the center console and the sideboards. On his 3rd pass, he paused. A bright reflection had attracted his attention to a panel on a piece of equipment. He walked over to see what it was. "What is that?" "That is you shining with the glory of Or," Nekemabed answered. Neged was looking at a reflection of a figure of fire. "How come I do not see the others looking like this?" "All of the angelics in Elenthial shine like you. This is what I see when I look at you. You angelics do not see it because you do not have Or's eyes. But you will soon. Be prepared, for you will be seeing many new things during the coming events. For example, you will see Sar and his men in a different light." He patted Neged on the back and headed for the door. "I must go to the realm of the regions." The realm of the regions was filled with an eerie howl as the sheer material whipped in the wind that was rushing between the doors. Each region's occupants knew that there was changes occurring within the cosmos, but no one was sure what was happening. Nekemabed entered the northern region. "Well done protecting the altar," he addressed the eagle and serpent. "Are we to enter the cosmos now?" the eagle eagerly inquired. "Not yet. It will be just a bit longer." Nekemabed stepped into the lobby area to address all of the occupants. Before he spoke another word, the 4 doors flung wide open. "Your role is vital for the Second Age. Until then, you are to remain in your areas. After I leave, do not allow anyone to enter. Bolt your doors and be prepared to move. At the proper moment, Or will order you to detach. Again, I emphasize that you must remain in your region until your detachment. You know what is expected of you." He ended with a stern look on his face due to the urgency of his message. Before Nekemabed turned to leave, the doors were slammed in unison, followed by a rhythmic tone of sliding and clicking bolts. As far as Sar was concerned, Abaddon and Azazel had already bestowed the title of king upon him. He now had the urge to proclaim himself king to the multitude. After the recent display of honor the crowd had shown him by kneeling to him as he was residing on his glorious throne, he saw this as the perfect opportunity. "I sit before you in the sacred orchard to establish my replica of the northern sector. Just as we saw the replica of the eternal tree for so long waiting for the prophecy to be fulfilled. This replica will be replaced with the true throne, the northern sector throne, that is mine, for I am the coming king." When he said this, his face changed momentarily. "I have created this source of power and strength. My prints are being placed on the cosmos as I speak. I have shared with you all that I have. Just as the prophecy said, Sar strengthened even more with each word. The words spilled off his lips, pushing an abundance of gray mist across the angelic mass. The force of deceitful words carried the mist for miles across afar. "What was that?" Megan asked. "It was a lion," Alyssa innocently answered. Rashawn had missed the image but knew what had happened. "Remember, Sar is a cherub. He too has the 4 faces, but he does not display them regularly. He tends to show his man face so that he looks like a Malak. However, there are times when parts of his character force him to reveal the other faces. Rashawn thought for a moment and then asked, "When his face changed, did it look like the other cherubim's faces?" The children took a moment to reply. "Not exactly," someone called out. "My gut tells me that Sar's faces are distorted, especially in the changed light of the cosmos," Rashawn said. "It would not surprise me at all if we start to see Sar's faces more often. They will be different from before as his nature changes." The three competing groups of Malaks lined up at the base of Sar's throne. Each had chosen a spokesman. Sar looked to the group on the right. "You may begin," he said. The newly renamed Malak Fear stepped forward. "Sir, I will not repeat what you already know. What I will tell you is the reason behind our tactics." He was taking a chance by assuming that Sar only wanted a minimal report. "We used fear to chase the sheep, false security to invite them, and led them astray by offering a false hope. It was our intention to divide and conquer. By our strategy, the sheep were easily confined through confusion. They were so preoccupied with how the other sheep had arrived in the thicket that we were able to slip by undetected and complete our mission. It was a bonus to see how easily they gave up in the end," Fear concluded. Sar sat for a moment speechless. "They have learned more than I have expected. The Zood must be strengthening their thought process and preparing them for battle." "Exceptional work," Sar praised the first group. "Their tactics were cunning." Sar was indeed impressed with this group and felt that each of them could make fine leaders under him. They had tapped into several strategies that Sar hoped to use against his enemy. "Please hold your position until I have received all three reports. I will then make my final decision." "Group 2, report," he barked out. The leader of the second group came forward. "Our mission was accomplished even though the starting point had been changed. We decided to use our speed and strength to our advantage as a primary tool for overcoming them. We chose to bind them physically so that they would be overwhelmed and not use their strength against us. We decided to put the beasts into the earth just as Kohengal has been confined." The Malak added this part, hoping to impress Sar by pursuing a similar fate for the beasts. Sar tilted his head to the side, trying to determine how to address this group. He did enjoy seeing them use their power and strength against the animals. That was new for the Angelics. "Why did you release them in the pit?" The leader looked over his shoulder, needing some assistance for this response. One of the others stepped forward. "They were confined in the pit. Leaving them bound would have been unnecessary," the Malak stated. "Very well. Step back and regroup." "I will hear the third report now," directed Sar. He was no longer impressed with the second group. The third group had just broken from a quick huddle, wherein they had rearranged their presentation. The spokesman for the group stepped up and confidently addressed Sar. "Your Majesty," he began. No one had ever bestowed this title on a created being. Sar sat up. "So this is how it feels to have such a title. This is my era." "Stop. Listen to what he has to say." Sar had to remind himself that the Malak was still speaking. "So we found that we are able to hide the truth from our target. Our song provided a partial truth that was just enough to draw them in. We let the sheep's own curiosity do all the work. Because they had become comfortable with us, it was easy to attack from within. We were concerned with reserving our energy, but only because we knew it would best serve the speed of our mission. It was better to use the resources that were already present. My men and I found pleasure in hearing the sheep's call for help as we walked away." The Malak ended, gave a bow, and returned to his group. The onlooking crowd was still in shock from the Malak's declaration of Sar. Sar sat on his throne with a grin on his face. He glanced up to look at the 24 stars reflecting in the cosmos from the northern sector, but could not find them. He did not have time to be concerned with that at the moment. He needed to announce the winners. "Men, I commend you all on your work. However, only 2 groups can continue as my strongmen. I call Fear and his group forward," Sar announced. The group moved in unison, unsure of their fate before Sar. "Group 3, take 6 steps back." Sar realized that no one knew what he was doing. "I need to see how worthy they truly are." "Behold, my 6 Malak strongmen," Sar announced. Everyone was confused, for Sar had not named the 6. My strongmen from the first and third teams will now work together to prove they are my strongmen they claim to be. They will go with Bashan to the outer edge and dispose of those 3 who were not found worthy. The 6 Melech strongmen all grinned and immediately seized the losers. Sar was overwhelmed at how quickly they responded and physically acted out. He instructed Bashan, "Choose my 4th Abir to work with you and lead the 7 strongmen to the portal. Be quick and return with a full report. I do not want to miss a detail." As Sar ended his instruction, his eyes narrowed into almond slits and a serpent form manifested. His newly appointed strongmen were intrigued with this facet of Sar's nature and thought it best to follow his orders immediately. By now, all the angelics had inhaled the gray mist that had come from Sar's lips, and they were completely taken over by Sar's delusions. The Asoavel had filled each of them and would soon explode into the cosmos. It was at this point that the angelics became Sar's army. Not only were they covered in Zood, exhibiting Sar's image, but they now shared his imagination and goals. Sar's next step was to enlighten his men about his revelation of the Zood.